Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. Such a pleasure to be able to speak to you today.
Hi, Sarah.
Maybe you could just kick off with a brief introduction to this incredible new show, not your conventional sort of rom-com, let's say. What can people expect when they watch Significant Other?
I'd like to say how much I like your wallpaper, first of all. It's
Thank you.
really up my street. It's an unromantic romantic comedy. It's two sort of people that you kind of think should be together, but then you wonder whether they should be together because things keep going wrong. I think it's a really honest and I hope funny, but also quite touching rendition of a sort of two people who are in midlife and have baggage, sort of finding each other, but then feeling disappointed with each other at the same time.
Did you want to add anything to that, Youssef?
Yeah, well, I think it's like I said to you on the Stay Close chat that we had. It's a Moorish show. It's bingeable. You watch one episode, you kind of just want to see the next one. They're easy to watch. They're funny, and the idea of this unconventional love story, maybe it's love story is wrong choice of words, maybe, but yeah, this romance that doesn't follow the tropes that we're used to seeing is something I think very attractive to the viewer. It's something you want to sort of delve into because it's not the way we're used to seeing a romance. It sort of blossoms in the wrong direction. You know what I mean? It blossoms down a dead end over and over again.
I mean, from the word go, as the show opens, I mean, it really is, the most unexpected meet cute I think you can sort of say you've ever seen. And there's some difficult subject matter in there, and we are talking about serious things like mental health and so on and so forth. But of course, there's so much sort of wit and warmth that comes out through the script. So I just wondered, when you first picked it up and you first read it, were you taken aback? Were you trepidatious about taking it on, or were you just immediately drawn to just how different this was?
I was immediately drawn to how different it was, precisely for what you say about the meet cute. I mean, it's such a kind of arresting opening, isn't it? I think, and also it lets you know quite early on that it's not just dark. When he takes the pills, he then writes a sort of petulant note to his soon-to-be ex-wife. So it's very much an act of rage against her, which I think stops you thinking you're watching some sort of deeply dark. You kind of know he's not going to succeed, I think, when you see that. And then my character knocking at the door, having very genuine heart attack, and the sheer bad luck of that. I mean, she's only 45, and I love the opening shots of episode 2 where you go along all these people that are kind of, it's like, okay, they've got heart disease, and then Anna's kind of going, for fuck's sake, why am I? So I think it's just very different and very I think we were very privileged to adapt it from the original Israeli show, which I watched after we finished filming, and is just brilliant, and I'm a big fan of her work. I've watched another show she's done since in India, and she's just got an amazingly original original brain for telling stories, and she just doesn't do the generic kind of characterizations or language that is more commonplace in television. So yeah.
And for you, Youssef?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think because of how it's written, they've taken great pains to write the way you would behave, and so you can actually trust that any dark bits that come are rooted in something real. So this comedic element sort of takes a bit of the danger away from it, And like I say, you can go further with comedy than you can with drama. You can tackle deeper issues, but we never lose sight of the fact that it's meant to be an entertaining story. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And Dana and Hamish, who adapted it from the Israeli show, are great writers. And I was attached to something years ago that Dana had written about mental health, actually. So that I knew that was all being handled with, sensitively, and honestly, and yeah.
And maybe you can say a few words also about your respective characters, because I mean, these are both flawed in their own separate ways, and a lot of their interactions are kind of caustic, but that's also where a lot of the humor arises. And also you find yourself still rooting for them despite, the mistakes they're making and perhaps being quite abrasive. And there's something amazing about that, isn't it? Because in this day and age, there's such a pressure to kind of present this sort of perfect image to the world.
Yeah.
And be quite sort of ruthless, if people aren't behaving exactly as you want them to. So this seems to sort of counter that entirely.
Yes, absolutely. Caustic. And I love that sort of quite aggressive row they have early on in the, when you have a row with a stranger and you're like, why are you rowing with me? You're a stranger.
Yeah.
And I feel like you get that energy from them in that shelter, and you realize that it's actually because they have a bit of chemistry, but it's I think that Anna is left a bit sort of thrown by this kind of guy that went from 0 to 60 with her. And it brings out her natural pugnacious troll. I think that's cleverly done, and then he accidentally sort of insults her, sort of comparing her to his ex-wife. And I mean, I just think it's really economic, the script. It tells a very sort of complicated and sophisticated story in 20-something minutes.
Just shot on half an hour. I think that's a very I think that's the point, is that when they have chemistry, it doesn't look like what you think chemistry looks like, and it's what chemistry between them looks like is them having a blazing row, comfortable enough to shout at each other. And I know for Sam particularly, it was obvious that he had an image of himself in his head that didn't match up with what the world sees. So if he, in his mind, he's the pin-up model on the poster, and which is why he, leaves his wife and his children. Which is just it's so hard to wrap my brain around that, but it's not because it's not something I would do, but it's, like I say, it's very difficult to not judge his actions, but he wants to try and recapture this sort of, the fun, good old days, but he realizes he's not. That's why I'm interrupting myself just to say that early on I wanted his flat to be filled with like Armani shirts and like some like things that he's bought because he thinks that that's the sort of height of luxury. It's going to make him look cool.
He's doing it to punish her, isn't he? Because he's so thrown when she has the divorce, properly gets.
Well, but that's sort of after. Like he's like, the reason he leaves is to try and sort of be the old playboy that he used to be. But of course, he's fat. He doesn't fit into any of the shirts. The fucking trousers don't fit. And it's this idea that he has this image of who he is.
Can't be bothered to go out. I mean,
exactly, yeah, and he can't be bothered to change his clothes. He's just, and so he meets when Sam meets Anna, it's this spark that gets ignited in him, but it's not necessarily the stereotype.
No, it's certainly not necessarily. It doesn't start from a sexual spark, and
no,
I think that comes, and it's sort of being drawn. Finding somebody alluring because of their vulnerability. I also like, as I've said earlier today, the gentle sort of poetry in the script. So, Anna's got a sick heart, and then when she opens the taxi door to let Sam into her heart, and then when she gets locked out, he's got her keys to her heart. I enjoyed all that. I thought it was very lightly done and very beautifully done. But I think David did get fed up with me pointing it out on set.
And I like the idea that they're not aware that they might be perfect for each other. you know, that you, as an audience, you watch it and you just see little clues that actually these two might be just who they need. But we're oblivious to it because we're just wrapped up in our own, you know, lifestyle.
She's obsessed with her ex and he's obsessed with his. And I think when you're older, that's often the case. And you can't see, it's that John Lennon thing of life happens while you're busy making other plans or whatever. And I think they are permanently distracted by other loves, that they don't see what is the kind of right in front of them.
Well, I think I'm out of time, unfortunately, but yeah, just I think, yeah, and I hope the takeaway seems to be for me that, you know, you can find love in these really unexpected places, and, you know, it is never sort of too late. So despite all the sort of witty, funny elements, there's a really nice message in there as well.
Oh, good.
Hope.
Well,
lovely to chat to you both. Thank you so much. Can't wait for everyone else to see Significant Other on ITVX.